Hey, it's Josh. You're probably wondering, Josh, what the hell are you doing in my podcast feed on a Monday? Well, you can consider this a bonus episode of the Josh Bloom podcast. Why a bonus episode? I will tell you. On July 6th, 2024, I saw the hysterical play Oh Mary during its run of previews ahead of opening on Broadway, following its sold-out downtown NYC run. On October 6th, 2024, I published an article on my Substack entitled The Intelligence of Stupidity, Steve Martin and Oh Mary, in which I wrote about the show, along with how it reminded me of my childhood obsession with Steve Martin's late 1970s discography. Since that time, Oh Mary has become a Broadway sensation, breaking financial records at the Lyceum Theatre, where it has just been extended through the fall of 2025. Now, the show's writer and star, Cole Escola, has been nominated for a Tony Award for acting, along with an additional 4 nominations for the show. When I published the article, I included a reading of it. This was before the beginning of the Josh Bloom podcast, so what better time to share that reading with you as a bonus episode of the show, right? If you want to learn more about Oh Mary and Cole Escola, CBS Sunday Morning has an extensive piece I will link to in the show notes. Enjoy, and be sure to compare what I sounded like on October 6th, 2024, with what I sound like today on May 5th, 2025. I bet it's astounding. I'll be back to say goodbye afterward. The Intelligence of Stupidity, Steve Martin and Oh Mary. My upbringing was littered with my parents' mistakes. One of the few that worked in my favor, which I would congratulate them for if they weren't both dead, is their stunning negligence regarding the entertainment I consumed. Mom and Dad didn't seem to notice or care that I had access to their Joy of Sex books when I was 5 years old, or that viewing The Exorcist on primetime TV damaged me for life, or that being chased home from school through the woods was not exercise. This astounding ignorance might have landed me in foster care if it happened today. The details of these salacious episodes will be saved for paid posts. Subscribe! Today, we are discussing my more positive youthful exposure to Steve Martin's brilliance, which has affected my everyday life since the single digits. The comedic lens on the world that Steve's brand of intellectual stupidity placed on me when I was a kid is the same one that drives me to declare the current play, Oh Mary, a downtown NYC sold-out sensation that is now setting financial records uptown, to be the best show I have ever seen on Broadway. Cole Escola, the creator and star of Oh Mary, proudly plays up the idea of stupidity in the show's marketing. Steve Martin's trio of albums in the 1970s, Let's Get Small in 1977, Wild and Crazy Guy in 1978, and Comedy Is Not Pretty in 1979, might as well have been one album when it comes down to how I listen to them. At the time, I couldn't tell you which bit was on which album. I have no idea how much I played these records, but it was enough to memorize them. I was 5 to 7 years old during the release period of these albums. I do not know how they entered my life. There they were. I reflect on this, knowing that there was a time during my childhood when so much of what I said, and how I said it in tone and attitude, was because of how Steve did it on these records. I was also first becoming obsessed with music and musicians at this time, and Steve played banjo. Oh, he plays music too? I thought. I didn't know that it was possible to do both yet. I was already absorbing everything I could about the Beatles at this age, and as far as I knew, records were either music or talking. Steve started opening my mind to this. Mad at My Mother, from Let's Get Small, hits when you're 5 years old and legitimately mad at your mother. I am 52 years old, and I am still mad at my mother. How come no one covers comedy? I am ready to hear someone skilled in Steve attempt their version of the 52 seconds of Mad at My Mother. She's 102 years old. She calls me up the other day. She wanted to borrow $10 for some food. Side note. Go listen to this. There's no one who can ever replicate it the way Steve does it. Steve introduces, "Excuse me," his one-liner take on Rodney Dangerfield's No Respect on this album. I said, "Excuse me," any chance I could get, which isn't as cute coming out of the mouth of a little boy as you might imagine. I don't think I ever was a little boy. Cat Handcuffs is not going to be remembered in the way that Steve's song King Tut from A Wild and Crazy Guy is. It was later performed in questionable, culturally appropriating attire on Saturday Night Live. But it's what matters to me. How many people have cats? Now let me ask you this. Do you trust them? Once again, a side note. Go listen to Steve's version. Steve explains why he's gotta get some cat handcuffs. 1 minute and 42 seconds to guarantee my survival. I wish this was hyperbole, but even at the tender age of 5, all I had was laughs as a reason to live. If Cat Handcuffs was performed anywhere but on stage, the talker would be the one in handcuffs. I endeavored to remain uninstitutionalized, and did. As Steve was selling out arenas by this time, he could do what he wanted and dropped Drop Thumb Medley on Comedy Is Not Pretty, an exhilarating banjo number followed by another gotta get bit. I finally got something I've always wanted. I finally got some hostages. Once again, a side note. I can't do Steve like Steve does Steve. Who could do Steve like Steve does Steve? Go listen to that bit. Hilarious and risky at the time, it was recorded before, but released in the same year as the start of the Iranian hostage crisis. Clearly, the routine has just as much potential to offend today. Followed by Cruel Shoes, I was treated to my first example of Steve Martin the writer. At 2 minutes and change, the piece is precisely what you would expect from the title. Steve accompanies himself on banjo to tell this story. His delivery makes it funny, but Cruel Shoes could work just as well as a tale of torture. Other key bits, Google Phonics, the highest number of speakers before infinity, and a vintage use of the word Google? You can be a millionaire. I took Steve's suggestion of when to use the phrase "I forgot" quite literally. Comedy Is Not Pretty is my favorite of Steve's records. Even the title and album cover are examples of what comedy means, an attempt at a distorted vision of pretty that can never be anything but stupid. Like all good comedy that rings true, stupid is beautiful and registers because of the ridiculous nature of existence and life itself. Steve said anything that came into his mind. By now, I was 7 years old and thinking that I could do the same. My insufficient parents didn't know what to do with me, but I did. I didn't bother with the 1981 album, The Steve Martin Brothers, that came later. I have not heard it to this day. I didn't need to because at the end of 1979, a couple of months away from turning 8 years old, I saw Steve's landmark film The Jerk, a movie I continue to quote, study, and wonder about. Steve plays Navin Johnson, born a poor black child, a line from one of his earlier routines. Navin is the jerk. He is naive, but he has heart, and we root for him. The film is perfectly stupid from its poster on down, and if you aren't smart enough to get it, then you aren't stupid, you're dumb. Don't be dumb. A recent episode of the Unspooled podcast, hosted by comedian Paul Scheer and film critic Amy Nicholson, see relevant yet frustrating side note below, examined the film. It reminded me of something I unexpectedly learned from The Jerk. In this scene, after Navin becomes a rich man, some less than ethical men explain to him how he can profit by denying housing to the disadvantaged by letting them help him get around housing laws. Little do they know, until he hilariously lashes out at them, that Navin was born a poor black child. My about-to-be 8-year-old self was being early educated about society's moral decay, and about how bigotry should never be tolerated and should constantly be confronted. Tangential, yet relevant. In regard to Paul, Amy, Unspooled, and my obsession with stupidity, I have documented over several years, and several videos, the possibility that Paul Scheer does not know that the actor Julia Louis-Dreyfus, best known for playing Elaine on Seinfeld, and who Paul has actually worked with on the TV show Veep, is named Julia Louis-Dreyfus, pronounced Louis, and not Julia Louise-Dreyfus, pronounced Louise. I cannot imagine anyone but me making note of this, But I still need answers. In fact, on a recent episode of another Paul-hosted podcast, the fantastic and long-running How Did This Get Made?, Paul makes this mistake again. So, I am starting to think this is just a verbal tic Paul has. Regardless, I am a student of stupidity and need to resolve this conundrum. Requests for comment have yet to be answered. I will make another updated video and tag it appropriately yet again. The profound ridiculousness of Steve Martin's comedy continues today in his work on the TV show Only Murders in the Building. I knew this show could not improve after the first year, and I didn't want to pay for Hulu anyway. Still, that first season of shows, before a hit show becomes about continuing to bring in the money that a successful show brings, lived up to the standards that I expect of Steve. Standards are another topic of conversation on the Unspooled episode about The Jerk. Paul and Amy discuss Steve's hunger for fame as a means to get his work noticed, and his dislike of how fame can negatively alter and influence that work. I thought about this recently as it relates to the writer, actor, and comedian Cole Escola and their hit Broadway show, Oh, Mary, in which Cole plays First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln. Plays in quotes, as Cole has made it quite clear they did less than no research in writing this role. I missed the sold-out run of Oh, Mary downtown, but scored a cheap seat in the orchestra during its Broadway previews. The show's director, Sam Pinkleton, has described Oh, Mary, that's the last time I'll do it that way, as deeply idiotic, saying that he has a huge hunger for deep stupidity. Variety's review of the show calls it the best kind of stupid. I must have attended the Broadway run of the musical Hedwig and the Angry Inch about a dozen times during the period when the show's original star and creator, John Cameron Mitchell, played the role. Mitchell had injured himself and was wearing a leg brace that he incorporated into the character, making the best of a bad situation so extensively that the show added nearly 20 minutes of jokes and monologuing about how Hedwig came to be injured, saying she was attacked outside of the Fifth Avenue dress barn, possibly by Sting, who was starring on Broadway at the time, who was now considered a person of interest. I attended so many times because, other than the iconic status of this show, its addictive songs, and John's ever-powerful performances of them, I knew that much of this added material was coming together on the fly, and I wanted to be part of the process. I adore Oh, Mary, but unlike the evolving improvisation-adjacent performances of kneecapped Hedwig, I also knew after that magical matinee that I did not need to pay to see it again. I witnessed meticulously honed craft, intellectual stupidity. It takes genius comedy writing like that of Cole and Steve to be this deeply idiotic, as Pinkleton says, and I knew, like with Only Murders in the Building, there was no way Oh, Mary could get better after season 1. I was completely satisfied when I left the Lyceum Theatre, sore from laughing through Oh, Mary. I knew I had seen the best Broadway show I had ever seen. It is impossible to imagine any show more stupid than Oh, Mary ever ascending to the prominence of grossing $1 million a week from being so tactfully gross. I started to wonder about that $1 million and the organizations outside of the stars and creatives that would be wondering about that $1 million too. Now that the run of Oh, Mary has been extended twice, and will probably be extended again, business realities encroach. Like with Hedwig, a show built by a writer and star with a singular artistic vision, considering future ticket sales that will rely on that star, as well as potential runs of Oh, Mary in other major cities around the world, means considering who will play the role of Mary Todd Lincoln in future productions. When I recently saw that Cole's understudy, Hannah Solo, would appear for a pair of performances in October and November, I was relieved that plans were already in action to package this not family-friendly at all show for future audiences, and to also package Cole's artistic future, where they will have the resources, support, and platform to bring new, less-than-no-research visions to stupid reality. We need shows like Oh, Mary that can tickle us as adults in the same way we were tickled as children, reminding intelligent grown-ups that we were intelligent kids who had the smart timing to use stupid phrases like, I forgot, and excuse me, effectively. When I make TikToks, I always feel like my best work is when I say to myself before I post, that is so stupid. It's when I'm most proud because it feels like I didn't allow my thinking brain to get in the way of the neurology of my funny. I try to practice this discipline in every moment of my life. That neurological path to stupidity is what I was looking for just now, when I heard an instrumental Beatles cover on the coffee shop sound system and stopped to write, I am surprised that as a lifelong vegetarian, Paul has yet to record an anti-pork industry version called I Want to Hold Your Ham. As a joke, it is the best I could do at the moment. But as an exercise in exorcising the stupid thoughts that I have trained my brain to indulge and purge, it met my stupid standards. Hey, it's Josh. I bet you weren't expecting to hear about my mom and dad's Joy of Sex books in today's podcast, huh? I'm pretty sure there wasn't much joy, but I'll save talking about that for the Joy of Josh book to be announced. Thanks for listening. Please leave a 5-star rating for the Josh Bloom podcast in your podcast app and leave a comment saying you like the show. Don't forget to follow, and most importantly, tell a friend. I know telling a friend is weird. I don't care. Do it anyway. Say that I threatened you. But really, I have been told by people I respect that I am difficult when you first get to know me, and when you do, I am a really nice guy. So please give your friends a chance to hate me and then love me. Lastly, visit me everywhere for everything by going to superjews.com. That's superjerjews.com for links to all my social media, and visit superjews.substack.com to subscribe to my Substack, which contains all of my long-form writing. Subscriptions are free, or for a small monthly donation, you can support my work. It helps a lot. Thanks again for listening.